Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into something a little darker, but incredibly important to talk about. Cruises are usually thought of as dream vacations, floating hotels where the biggest worry is whether you'll spend the afternoon by the pool or at the buffet. But sometimes those dream vacations turn into living nightmares. In this video, we're uncovering cruise ship disasters you won't believe happened at sea. These are real stories of tragedy, chaos, survival, and shocking failures that changed the cruise industry forever. Some of these events made global headlines, others were brushed aside by cruise companies trying to protect their image, but all of them left lasting scars. Stick around until the end, because the last few stories are ones most people have never even heard of, and they'll make you think twice about what can really happen out there on the open ocean. Let's begin with perhaps the most infamous cruise disaster of modern times, one that shook the entire industry and left millions horrified. The Costa Concordia. This massive ship, longer than the Eiffel Tower is tall, was supposed to be a jewel of Italian engineering. On January 13, 2012, the Costa Concordia departed on what should have been a routine Mediterranean cruise. Passengers enjoyed fine dining, live shows, and the calm seas of the Tyrrhenian coast. But that night, Captain Francesco Schettino decided to deviate from the programmed course. He ordered the ship closer to the island of Giglio, allegedly to perform a salute maneuver, a dangerous practice where large ships pass close to shore to impress passengers and sometimes even wave to locals. It was reckless showboating, and in this case, it proved fatal. At 9:45 p.m., the ship struck an underwater rock formation. The collision tore a 53-meter gash into the hull. Within minutes, seawater poured into the lower compartments. Lights flickered, the ship shuddered, and then alarms began to sound. Passengers, many of whom thought it was just turbulence, soon realized something was terribly wrong as the massive vessel began to list to one side. Imagine being in a luxurious dining hall, sipping wine, when suddenly glasses topple, chandeliers sway, and the floor tilts beneath you. Panic set in quickly. Maritime law requires that in emergencies, passengers must be evacuated within 30 minutes. But the evacuation of the Costa Concordia was a chaotic disaster in itself. Lifeboats couldn't be lowered properly because of the ship's angle. Announcements over the loudspeakers gave conflicting instructions. Families were separated, and in the darkness, terrified passengers scrambled through tilting hallways. Some crew members acted heroically, guiding people towards safety, but leadership at the top was absent. Captain Schettino abandoned the ship early in the crisis, later claiming he fell into a lifeboat. His decision to flee, while more than 4,000 people were still on board, became a symbol of cowardice. He would later be convicted of manslaughter, abandoning ship, and sentenced to 16 years in prison. In the end, 32 lives were lost. For survivors, the trauma of that night still haunts them, being stranded on lifeboats in freezing January waters, hearing the cries of people who couldn't make it out, watching the massive ship roll onto its side in the shallow waters near shore. The Costa Concordia remained there, partially submerged, for years until one of the most expensive and complex salvage operations in history finally removed it. More than $1 billion was spent to right the ship, refloat it, and tow it away to be dismantled. The haunting images of the toppled Concordia remain etched into history. A modern-day Titanic that showed arrogance and negligence can still sink even the grandest of vessels. But that was just one story. Our next disaster didn't involve a collision, but instead an engine room fire that transformed a Caribbean holiday into what the media dubbed the poop cruise. This was the Carnival Triumph in February 2013. The ship departed Galveston, Texas, with more than 3,100 passengers and 1,000 crew, bound for a week of fun. But just 2 days into the trip, disaster struck. A fire in the engine room knocked out the ship's power. The fire was extinguished, but the damage crippled the vessel. Without power, the Carnival Triumph lost propulsion. It drifted helplessly in the Gulf of Mexico. And with no electricity came another nightmare. Air conditioning failed, kitchens stopped functioning, and most critically, toilets backed up. For 4 agonizing days, passengers endured horrific conditions. Human waste overflowed and seeped into hallways and cabins. Mattresses were dragged onto open decks where people tried to sleep in the sweltering heat. Food supplies dwindled. Crew members distributed sandwiches and drinks, but they were barely enough. To make matters worse, the smell became overwhelming. Passengers described it as a floating prison, where the only thing more unbearable than the heat was the stench. Photos and videos taken by those on board spread rapidly online, and soon the entire world was calling it the poop cruise. Finally, after being towed for days, the Triumph arrived in Mobile, Alabama, where exhausted, angry, and traumatized passengers disembarked. The incident sparked lawsuits, investigations, and a massive PR crisis for Carnival. It turned out that Carnival had been warned about generator problems months before, but hadn't taken adequate steps to fix them. The Triumph disaster became a textbook case of how quickly things can unravel at sea when redundancy and maintenance are neglected. While the Costa Concordia and Carnival Triumph involved involved arrogance and neglect, the next story is a chilling reminder of nature's fury. In March 2019, the Viking Sky, a luxury cruise liner carrying nearly 1,400 passengers and crew, was sailing near Norway's coast when it encountered a brutal storm. Fierce winds, towering waves, and icy seas battered the vessel. Then, disaster struck. The ship lost all 4 of its engines. Suddenly powerless, the Viking Sky drifted dangerously toward the rocky shore. Passengers were told to put on life jackets and prepare for evacuation. Some prayed, others wept, and many recorded the terrifying scene as furniture slid across floors and waves smashed against the glass windows. Norwegian authorities launched an incredible rescue operation. Helicopters braved the gale to pluck passengers one by one from the ship's deck. Imagine being strapped into a harness, lifted into the sky as the ship rolled beneath you, with waves crashing over the bow. Over 470 people were airlifted to safety in one of the most dramatic rescues ever attempted. Miraculously, engineers managed to restart some engines, preventing the Viking Sky from running aground. The ship limped back to port, but the near disaster left hundreds shaken. It was later revealed that lubrication issues caused the engines to fail, and questions were raised about why the ship sailed despite storm warnings. Fires and power failures have long been some of the greatest threats at sea, and Carnival's fleet has seen multiple close calls. In November 2010, the Carnival Splendor suffered an engine room fire that left the ship stranded off the coast of Mexico. With no power, passengers endured days without hot meals, air conditioning, or working toilets. The situation grew so desperate that the U.S. Navy had to airdrop supplies of food, including Spam and Pop-Tarts, to keep passengers fed. It was supposed to be a week of fun in the sun, but instead became a survival story covered by international media. A few years earlier, in 1998, the Carnival Ecstasy experienced a massive fire sparked by unauthorized welding near a laundry room. Lint caught fire, flames spread rapidly, and smoke filled hallways. Passengers panicked as alarms blared. 22 people were injured, and millions in damage were sustained before the fire was brought under control. For hours, hundreds feared the ship would be lost. Fires at sea are among the most terrifying disasters imaginable because flames can spread quickly, and firefighting resources are limited compared to land. But not all cruise ship disasters come in the form of collisions or fires. Outbreaks of illness, though less visually dramatic, have sickened thousands over the years. Norovirus, a highly contagious stomach bug, has been the bane of many cruise lines. In some cases, entire voyages turned into quarantines, with passengers confined to cabins as crews tried desperately to sanitize surfaces. The thought of being trapped on a ship with hundreds of sick people, unable to leave, is its own form of nightmare. Then there are rogue waves, massive walls of water that can appear seemingly out of nowhere. On several occasions, rogue waves have slammed into cruise ships, shattering windows, flooding cabins, and injuring passengers. These freak waves remind us that the ocean is still unpredictable, and no matter how large a ship is, it's never invincible. Man-overboard incidents are another dark reality. Whether through accident, recklessness, or foul play, hundreds of people have gone overboard on cruises. Detection systems have improved in recent years, but many times the person isn't discovered missing until it's far too late. Searching for a single human in the vast expanse of the ocean is like looking for a needle in a haystack, and tragically, most are never recovered. All of these incidents share common themes: human error, mechanical failure, and the unforgiving power of nature. The Costa Concordia was arrogance and recklessness. The Carnival Triumph was neglect of maintenance. The Viking Sky was poor judgment in facing a storm. Fires like those on the Splendor and Ecstasy revealed vulnerabilities in safety practices. Outbreaks, rogue waves, and overboards show us that sometimes it's simply the reality of life at sea. The cruise industry has learned from these disasters, though often at a terrible cost. Safety drills are now strictly enforced. Evacuation times are monitored. Ships are built with better redundancy systems, and technology has improved navigation and communication. But critics argue that profit still comes before safety too often. Ships are getting bigger, carrying more passengers, and sailing to more remote destinations than ever before. The stakes continue to rise. For passengers, the lesson is clear. While cruises remain one of the safest forms of travel statistically, you should never take safety for granted. Pay attention during drills. Know where your muster station is. Keep an eye on weather conditions and stay alert to your surroundings. It may sound unnecessary on a luxury vacation, but when things go wrong at sea, they go wrong fast. Cruise ships are marvels of engineering, floating cities of entertainment, leisure, and relaxation. But when disaster strikes, they can quickly turn into traps. The Costa Concordia showed the world how leadership failures can cost lives. The Carnival Triumph revealed how uncomfortable and even dangerous life can become without power. The Viking Sky reminded us that nature cannot be controlled, only respected. Fires, outbreaks, rogue waves, and overboards highlight the unpredictable dangers that come with life at sea. These are the cruise ship disasters you won't believe happened at sea. They are chilling reminders that behind the glamour of cruising lies risk and responsibility. The ocean is beautiful but merciless, and when something goes wrong far from shore, help may not arrive for hours or days. If you found this video eye-opening, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories, and share this video with anyone who loves cruising or is planning their first voyage. Awareness saves lives, and knowing the truth about these disasters may just prevent history from repeating itself. Thanks so much for watching, stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next one.